Good afternoon, art ecologists. My name is Tom Randolph, and the focus of my project is the stony coral tissue loss disease that is occurring here in the Caribbean and in parts of Florida and also in parts of the Lesser Antilles and the Greater Antilles. The location I'm recording this from is not very far from a reef that has stony coral tissue loss disease. Stony coral tissue loss disease first showed up in South Florida around 2014. This unknown bacterial pathogen began rapidly creating lesions on coral, like this brain coral here in the picture. The pathogen destroys tissue, such as the zooxanthellae, and bleaches the coral. And as that bleaching happens, so does the death of that individual coral. The coral tissue loss disease, sometimes referred to as Skittles, may be affecting up to 23 different types of coral, including those here around St. Croix. And that's partly why I've become more interested in this and why my project is going to be about this disease. In these four pictures, you can see how rapidly stony coral tissue loss disease moves. On the top left-hand corner, those two little white spots, February 1st, and then just a few days later, February 12th, you can see they've grown. And then the bottom left-hand corner, February 21st, the coral is just about completely covered. And then finally, early March, the coral is just about completely dead. So this stony coral tissue loss disease is all over the Caribbean, including St. Thomas, Puerto Rico, down the Lesser Greater Antilles. And the area I'm focused on is Buck Island. Buck Island was set aside by President Kennedy as a national underwater monument. And that's where I work as a volunteer with the National Park Service, helping to apply the amoxicillin to hopefully slow down this pathogen. Also, something to think about are stressors that are impacting the reef, stressors that make the reef less resilient. I'm talking about climate change, pollution, turbidity, and runoff. One of the reasons that I chose this topic for my subject for the project has to do with hope. The photograph here is showing one of the scuba divers going down, applying the amoxicillin, and that's what we do as volunteers. We apply amoxicillin, and that is helping the reef be more resilient and resist this pathogen. So this is an act of hope, and I really think that that's why I wanted to do this project from the get-go, is because there's so much hope involved in this project and the people that are working, that are trying to save the coral reef. So now you know a little bit about stony coral tissue loss disease. What I want to do with my project is I want to find something floating up on the beach, some kind of pollution. And keep in mind, pollution, climate change, turbidity, all of this adds stressors to the coral, adds stressors to the reef, and lowers the reef's resiliency against pathogens. So I want to find something that's floating out or floating in and paint on that. And I want to be really not structured. I want to be more using a trans-rational approach. And I want to kind of be close to the reef, but not actually underwater, and try and paint something that is kind of reflects that stony coral tissue loss disease and educates through my project. Regarding the spectrum of ecological art, my project content falls into the categories of communicating and educating. The physical canvas demonstrates using and repurposing of a discarded object, and I hope that my project will educate about stony coral tissue loss disease and some of the impacts that are making coral less resilient. The two photographs here, incidentally, the top one, my wife took that picture. Those are the actual containers that we carry underwater with us. That's the amoxicillin that we apply to the coral reef that's impacted by the pathogen. And the picture in the bottom is a photograph taken by my daughter while she was out scuba diving. She's also works out here in St. Croix as an AmeriCorps volunteer, and she took that picture of some stony coral tissue loss disease. Communication and education are my goals for this project. I hope to increase awareness about one specific coral disease. So often, I think people kind of lump together all the things that are happening with the coral reefs right now around the world. Is just like the coral reefs are having problems. I wanted to really focus on one specific disease, stony coral tissue loss disease, using environmental art as my approach. I hope to provide an image that expresses my environmental concern about the coral and the stressors impacting the seas. So the following are some really quick sketches of what I'm thinking about. So that is the green is the alive part of the brain coral, and the kind of pinkish orange, that would be the pathogen moving in on that last living section of the coral. So when you're snorkeling down and you see one of these beautiful brain corals and they have these huge white spots or little white spots, they're just brilliantly bright, and that's the pathogen that's already killed that section of tissue. And that's kind of a quick rendering of what I'm seeing when I'm down there and what I'm going to be trying to put in my project. So this last rendering, this kind of just gives you a little idea of what I'm thinking about. So it's an underwater scene. You've got the brain coral. The brain coral have the lesions on them from the stony coral tissue loss disease, and maybe a mangrove or two coming in from the sides on the surface because they're also having ecological issues. And again, I don't want to really be structured about this. I want to be more open and fluid. I like to use the term transrational, kind of a non-structured, just kind of letting the place kind of speak to me, and thinking about the place that's underwater and reflecting on that. Hopefully that will show up in what I do in my project. So thank you for your time. I've really enjoyed seeing everybody's art in the class, and thank you. Have a great day.